Well, hello, welcome to another stream. So, this is number 4, and today we're going to be looking at a bit more of register and also get onto some login. That's the plan, anyway. So, I think the first thing I'd like to do is watch some video and look at some art, because that's always a nice thing to start with. Coding can be a bit boring, staring at an editor and watching the code being written. I suppose if you know coding and it's something you're really interested in, then it can be really exciting. But it's always nice to see a bit of art. So we'll start with one of the cutscenes that we're working on for the game. So as you know, there's 4 different themes of decks. So we've got paladins, undead, angels, and demons. And we're going to make cutscenes for each of those main boss characters of the initial 4 deck themes. So our awesome artist, animator, he's been working on the cutscenes for the angel. And I posted these before on social media, but let's watch one. Let's bring it up on the screen here. There we go. Let's watch this. So, this is Angel Euphrates. The camera is panning up, and you start to see her, and she's holding her weapon, which is a bow, and she's got an arrow with lightning sparking on the end. She fires it into the clouds. It's a dark, cloudy atmosphere, and the clouds part, and she raises her hand to shield her eyes from the light to see what's happening, and that's it. So she's cleared away all of the dark clouds. And this cutscene is going to be put together with a few other cutscenes, so we'll have one from the demon theme as the next one, I think. But to start with, this first one is enough. So we'll be putting up a website, and Angel Euphrates video clip will be made into kind of a trailer, and also we'll have some clips and cutscenes that are in the game. So the other thing the artist's been working on is visualizing what some of the game screens are going to look like. So yesterday I showed you some of the thoughts. So here's another preview of some more ideas that we're looking over. This is the different cards, and we're going to have some collectors decks and a whole sorting and filtering of cards, so you can arrange the cards that you own by different categories. Useful for searching, for building decks. So yeah, this is really more about what kind of style and what kind of theme we'll be having. So that's it for the artwork. Still waiting on another undead zombie girl. So as you know, the undead category is mostly like a pirate, undead, zombie, skeletal kind of theme. And the other artist we have, she's working on Daphne, who is the second in command to the main boss pirate guy. Just to remind you who they are, let's bring those up again. So that's the Angel Euphrates. This is the demon. He's King Asmodean, and this is King Dominic the Paladin. And somewhere I've also got the undead character. Well, the card's still in progress, I think, or it's nearly finished. But this is him on the end here. He's Lord Admiral Bastille. and his second in command, Daphne, is being worked on at the moment. So I'll show you some previews of Daphne when she's ready. Right, let's get on with some coding then. I'll just rearrange my windows a bit so I can see everything I need to see. Okay, so you can see here, this is where we finished up last time. We revamped the whole register screen and added some password and repeat password checking. So right now none of these fields can be empty. You can see the register button is not enabled, and if I put a password in that is of bad strength, so it's too easy, then it's going to give me various set of warnings here. So I've got to pick a more secure password. This is still bad. This is weak. And that's strong. And then I need to... and then I added this hide and view. So now I can make sure that I'm having the same password here. So now you can see I'm allowed to register. But this still seems like a little bit not enough really, because as you can see this is not really a valid email address. Although it's not empty, it's not that helpful to have fadsfa, whatever that says. So I would like to do some work on that and validate the email address, and also put some ticks next to the password and repeat password. So these are just two kind of small things that we can do to make this screen a little bit more visual and useful. So once I've done that, we'll move on to login. And also I realised that I didn't really write any tests around the back end side, and I think it always comes back to bite me if I don't write any tests. So I'm going to go and see if I can do those tonight as well, and then finish the login screen. So the login screen should be pretty simple. It's going to be probably just very similar to the register screen, but with less stuff. So let's do it. So an interesting thing here is email. So email is quite you have a lot of different kinds of email, so we really need to use a regular expression to validate the email. So down in, I'll just do it next to email here. I'm gonna create an is email valid, which will take the email, which is a string, and we'll just return a true or false, a boolean. So now I'm going to drop down to JavaScript to do this, because I want to do a regular expression, split things apart, check a few bits and pieces, and in this case it's a lot easier to do it in JavaScript. So Mint, this is Mint I'm using, which is a very, very niche language that nobody's heard of. But it's written in Crystal, and I like it. I've probably said this a number of times, but I have been using Elm quite a lot, and this is very, very close to Elm. In fact, the guy who wrote this language, he was an Elm guy, and he just got a little bit fed up with Elm, with a lot of boilerplate, and with the various different hoops really that you have to jump through to make some things work. And really sometimes you just want to get on and get stuff done. So we're going to have a regular expression here. I'm going to leave it like this for now, and we'll come back to it in a moment, because I'm going to go find one on the internet, because there are already places that have put a lot of effort into making that regular expression correct. Yeah, so going to just write some very basic JavaScript here. It's not very exciting. So we're just checking to see if something is valid and returning false. It's a bit longhand, but it's very quick. And this app is all about speed, and it's a prototype really. We're going to use it for testing our gameplay. So of course it has to be quite stable, and we don't want loads of bugs everywhere, but also we don't want to spend hours and hours and hours coding it, because it's not the real game, it's just the mechanics. And I think not only myself and some of the game designers, but also anyone who is watching these streams on Twitch or is following the development of this game, well, you know, I'll probably put this out on the internet and allow other people to use this app to play with the game mechanics and give feedback, which I think is very helpful, because I don't want to start building the whole graphical game in Godot game engine and putting all the effort in there, only to find that, you know, there's some serious flaws with the mechanics. So the best thing to do is test it out in little bits, get feedback, and then move on to the next bit and keep working that way. Okay, so that should do for Israel email. Now we just need a regular expression. I'm just going to go and find one on the internet. Yes, I found one. So I'm going to use this one. It's very long and hard to read, but basically regular expression is just checking what letters, numbers, characters are allowed in a email address. And that should be it really. So now on email, at the moment on email, all we're doing is setting the value from the email input box into a state, or a variable holding the state, which is email. Oh, hello, Sir Dieselot7. Welcome. I'm just going through coding my game prototype app, and this is going to be an app to let us and other people and the game developers test out the game mechanics before we go and build the whole thing in Godot. You missed some artwork. I'm just gonna show you right now, because watching coding sometimes really boring. So here's some of the game artwork, and we've got loads more artwork coming and lots of artists working on stuff. Yes, we are going to use Godot. I don't know about other people's experiences with Unity and Godot and writing games in JavaScript, but I just tried it out in a few different ways and kind of felt at home with Godot. The only worrying thing is maybe that there's no really huge, massive, mainstream, popular games written in Godot, where Unity's got a ton of them. But I guess Godot's pretty young. Really, it's only kind of like 4 years old, maybe, and maybe there's also time for it to improve. Oh yeah, sorting algorithms. That's fun. Right, so yes, here on email we're basically taking the value from the email field, or email address, and we're sticking it into a bit of state here. So we're also going to check if it's valid, and we're going to set some various states based on that. So right now I'm in London in the UK, and it's been pretty cold here, and the more it gets cold, the more I don't want to go out of the house. So it's actually encouraging me just to do more coding, because it's nice and warm in the house. And also going outside in London as well, it's so many people, everything's busy, and when stuff stops working, as soon as it gets a little bit cold or there's any kind of problems, then everything stops and you get stuck on a tube for hours. Okay, so here I'm just going to check if the email address is valid, and if it's not valid, I'm going to do something else. So if it is valid, this next keyword is part of Mint, and it just helps you set state. And if the email is valid, set this to true. Otherwise, yeah, it is pretty it's pretty crowded in London. Actually, I thought traffic was bad here, but I went to an exhibition in San Francisco in November, just to raise awareness for the game Guardians of Axum, which I'm building, and also for Sushi Chain, which is the underlying blockchain that I'm building. And so it was in Silicon Valley, and we were staying in San Francisco, and the traffic was incredible. I can't believe the traffic there. There was like 2 5 lanes merging into 1 5 lane to go across the Bay Bridge, and I was just like trying to go out to meet a friend for dinner in the evening, and I was on Messenger saying, I'm stuck on the bridge. The driver, I was in an Uber, he said the Uber driver says it might be half an hour or it might be 2 hours, he doesn't know. So yeah, that was really interesting. Yeah, but it was pretty expensive in San Francisco as well. Although I did have some great food, I have to say. Right, so on email, so now I need to create a little bit of state here. So valid email and is email valid? Well, I have email, I just need to create valid email. Let's go to my state up here. So the whole way Mint language works is a bit like React framework, and also a bit like Elm, which is a cool functional language that everyone's using. Everyone's into functional languages these days, which yeah, is nice, but comes with various problems. Okay, we'll set to true by default. Okay, so now we need to show some kind of message when the email is invalid. So to do that, we're going to pop up an alert. I'm going to just write that down here a bit underneath the score text. Password strength. I'm going to do it right at the bottom here. So invalid email alert. HTML. Yeah, object-oriented languages are cool though. That's what the first kind of programming I learned was OO. And now I've been learning functional. I've been doing functional programming for a few years, and it is, you know, a totally different concept. But I think there's room for both approaches. Alright, so if this email string is empty, then we don't need any kind of warning. We'll just put an empty div. If the email is valid, then we don't want any kind of warning, so we'll just put empty div here. And else, this is the case where we've got some work to do. So height is a class that sits on the div. Close the div, and then let's create another div here and put a class on it of alert. So this is Bootstrap I'm using here. I'm using Bootstrap just because it's really quick to do, and also I've changed the theme a couple of times already because I just didn't like it. I was playing around and it was too dark, and then it was not dark enough. So, but now I've gone for just a very boring kind of plain look. Okay, so invalid. Also, this time of night, it's quite late for me here, so I'm really tired, and I'm not used to streaming with lights on the green screen, so I've got like lights in my face, which is making me even more tired. Right, so in theory, if I put some rubbish in here, let's check what's going on. Let's reload the cache. Let's close that. Okay, so invalid email alert. Right, we just need to pop that into the HTML rendering further down here. Let's see, on email. So I think a good place for that is right in the bottom, form group. In the form group, input name. Kind of feels like it needs to go about here. This seems like a good place for it. We'll find out. So let's see. That's quite a good place, yes. But it is a little bit annoying that it's already warning me. It's already complaining. And I haven't even typed my email address yet. It's not totally late here. It's like approaching 9:30, but I've got two kids, young kids, and they're in bed, so I can't be too loud. Otherwise I'll wake them up, and then it's really hard to get them back to bed again. Oh yeah, university. Yeah, I remember the days. Yeah, it was fun. Well, in my day at university it was fun. I'm not sure if it's still fun. Because there are perhaps more pressure, I guess, these days to do well and get a good degree. But when I was at university, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't do a programming degree, really. There's program aspects to my degree, but yeah. Wow, rotation between work and school, interesting. Yeah, I just had to do full time, although I had a year out in Germany, which was awesome. Oh yeah, that was it was a good time. You know what? I'm going to change this on input to on blur, so that will allow me to at least type the email address before it starts giving me. Well, it should do. Maybe it needs to reload. Should let me type. Yeah, that's better. So now at least I get to type my email address, my email address, and if I make a mistake and I just do that, then it's not warning me until I move off, which I think is a little bit more polite than just being shouted at when I didn't even enter it. So email address, so you put that in here, put your name in, put your password in. You can view the password, see what it is, and I'm going to put a very super password. So strength's good on that one. And now I can register if I want. Right, so last thing to do here is put a couple of ticks next to the password box so that I know I've got the passwords correct. The passwords are both the same. And that's going to be a check indicator, some kind of check indicator. I think a nice tick. And maybe if they're not right, maybe a red X or something like that. I think that would be interesting. Oh, your current major is computer engineering. Awesome. I might change to computer science. Yeah, I guess it depends what your interest is. I flipped around after I left uni, looking for all sorts of different jobs, and eventually settled on working as a developer. But yeah, I think if you want to go into a specific area of computing, find something that covers your interest. Otherwise it can get really boring. Right. I don't know. I'm just searching off screen for a nice tick box. Yes. I think I found what I'm looking for. So I'm going to put it here. Get check indicator. And this is going to be HTML. And if the string is empty and password, and also empty. This time of night as well, I'm really bad at typing. I don't know why. I don't know what happens. Something happens after I've been working all day and it gets late at night. I just lose the ability to type. And also I'm really bad at talking and typing at the same time. I guess it's hard to keep attention on things. Right, so if the password is the same as repeat password, then we're going to have a success check. That's exciting. I'm going to make a little check mark function which will help me to show either a tick or a cross, an X. So I'm going to use Font Awesome, success, check. That's how it's going to be. And then if the string is empty, repeat password. It's autocomplete on Atoms, quite helpful, though sometimes it does suggest things that it thinks are there but they're not really. Here we go. Else. So I'm really looking forward to getting this game mechanics prototype done, because then I can actually start playing with it, playing with the gameplay. And that's the fun part for me, just playing and battling my deck against someone else's deck. And I think this prototype will have enough functionality to be able to do that kind of thing. I mean, obviously it won't look super pretty, but the mechanics will be there, which is what's important. Alright, let's put this check indicator somewhere. I think as well, when you are involved in computing or IT or anything in that kind of space, like, everyone just phones you up constantly and thinks that you know everything in the whole world about computers and about how to fix computers. So it's like constantly, like, my friends phone me up, hey Kingsley, I've broken something, my computer won't start. And I'm always like, well, I'll try and help you, but I can't guarantee that I'm going to know what your particular problem is. And then also sometimes it's random people like ask me questions about random tech as well. Like in London, the tube's like busy, so it's full of commuters. They get on the tube and they don't talk to anyone, don't look at anyone. And normally we just, we're British. We just sit there on the tube and we're all like solemn and not looking anybody in the eye. And then I was just sitting there, just waiting for my stop. And this girl sitting next to me, she just turned to me. She had a laptop on her lap, and she says, "Do you know anything about computers? My laptop's not working." And I was looking at her in a little bit of disbelief, like, "Why are you talking to me?" And so I said, "Oh, I don't know. Let me have a look." But anyway, it was pretty obvious that it had just run out of power. It just wasn't like powering up. And so I was saying to her, "Look, it's not broken. It's you need to charge it. It's got no power." She said, "Oh no, it's one of the new Macs. It's self-charging." I was like, "No, you've got to charge it yourself." It was really funny, and she was a bit puzzled, but I'm pretty sure that's what the problem was. Okay, so in theory now, if I add a nice extra group onto password and repeat password. So I got my phone group. Yes, self-charging. I really want the self-charging one where I don't have to do anything. Right. Where's a good place to put this add-on? So input password. So I've got the label here, then I've got the group. Well, I kind of think it should go here because that's right above the group. Don't know. We'll see how this looks. Oh, I need to fix check mark. I haven't written check mark yet. So check mark is going to be something that gives us back the nice tick or the cross. Yeah, so I mean, I've had some really interesting encounters on the tube in London. People have stopped me and asked me all sorts of weird questions, and some people, the ones who are looking for money, some of them come around and they like play a nice tune or on some kind of accordion or a guitar. And some people, they're just musicians, and they just like, especially at Christmas time, they just want to come and entertain people. And sometimes they're pretty drunk as well, so I'd be like on the tube home, it'll be like, I don't know, 6 o'clock in the evening, and everyone's like tired, they're just trying to get home. And then suddenly like this group of bohemian musicians will get on the train, and they'll just like start with a very subtle bit of drumming, and then some girl pull out a guitar, and then some guys start singing, and then after like 10 minutes everyone is singing and making a huge racket, and then all the passengers start getting involved as well, and it's pretty interesting thing to watch. How long have I been working this? Actually not that long, so I probably shouldn't call this add-on. I should probably call this input group text. I should call this checkmark add-on. So I've been working on my blockchain for about a year. I've been working on this game for about, the design of it for about 5 or 6 months so far. I've been coding on it for approximately 4 days so far. So, yeah, not too long. I'm going to call this like this. But I think once I get going, things will go quick. And then in no time at all, I'll have an awesome game. So I've got my span, group text, I've got the ID, I need an I. This is where the magic happens. So the class needs to be far dash plus icon. Yeah, game development just takes ages and ages and ages and ages and ages. So I've got to be really like, I can't get off track too much. I've got to try and focus so I can get this going. And plus, also, this first phase is to build the card mechanics. Second phase is to build a pre-sale app. Third phase is to do a whole card pre-sale to raise some funds. So we'll be selling off some of the cards and the decks, and then raise a little bit of money so we can continue development. And then after that, we'll get on to really building some awesome stuff. And hopefully that won't take too long. Well, it'll probably take ages, but so my artist was just contacting me here. She has got something for me to view. I'm going to look at it a bit later, and on tomorrow's feed, tomorrow's stream, I will show it. Okay, so check mark. Is that enough? I have an error. Closing bracket. So this is the good thing about having a compiler. When there's an error, I can see that on 9354, I did something stupid. What did I do? I found a slash. Span iClass. When you get tired, oh yeah, I think I'm missing something here. There should be a slash there. Element does not have children. Looking for a closing bracket, but if I had a comma. Oh. Yes. I don't need a comma. Right, let's reload this. Now, what's happened to my check? Let's see. So, yeah, look at that. Some red checks. Awesome. Now let's make sure they work when they're together. So it's hello. And this one's going to be hello. Yeah, some green ticks. Very nice. So I feel like a sense of achievement now. I've got some good register stuff going on. And I think that's pretty much it for register. I feel like I've done all the basic stuff I want to do here. So the next step is, after I've registered, I really have to do login screen. So I think register, I'm just going to drop straight into dashboard once you register. So the app's built in two parts. There's a front end and a back end. The front end's written in Mint, which is a language that compiles to JavaScript. The back end's written in Crystal. Everyone's always asking me, hey, what's Crystal? And I've never heard of Crystal, but it's like Ruby, but with types, and it has a compiler, and it compiles to native, which are all things I like, which is why I really like using it. So on the register, I tested this the other day. I've got a whole, this is because I revamped register, so I'll just get rid of this. Don't need that anymore. So just telling my artist I will get back to her. Right, and as I was saying the other day, I need to write some more tests because I don't really have enough, and they always come back to bite me when I don't write tests. So I'm going to go back to the Crystal code now, which is in GoMech. So GoMech is Guardians of Axum Mechanics. I'm using RethinkDB, and right now there's a register. So when you register, it actually starts a session for you. So now I just need a bit of session handling, and I also need kind of a dashboard. So when you land after logging in, there's somewhere to go. Actually, I should do the dashboard in the web app first. Let's do that first. So in web app, in source, in routes, I'm going to create a route. The default route, I just set it as register right now, but I think we'll try and take people to the dashboard for now on route, and then we'll have another route here which is the dashboard, so you can navigate there as well if you want. Oops, typing the wrong thing already. So in the dashboard we'll do application, which is the store, which sets the state. We set the page to dashboard. Yeah. So now we have dashboard, we need to go create a new page, which is a dashboard, and I'll add a new page here if I can. I don't know, something weird happens to my editor. What has happened? There we go. New file. Pages. Okay, let's create dashboard. Dashboard.mint. Okay, so here we'll have a component called dashboard. This component is not really going to do much. A component really only needs a couple of things. A render, and this has to return some HTML. So I'll just return a div for now, which just says dashboard. Dashboard. That'll be enough. So now in the main mint we need to hook up. Do we need to hook this up? No, I think that's fine. The routes is all I need, and then a page. So let's go to dashboard. Actually, is this complaining? Yes, it is. Can't find another store. Okay, yes, too many P's. Got a bit excited. Right, now it's good. Now, can I go here yet? Can I go here? I can't go there yet. Okay, what did I miss? Dashboard, set page dashboard. So when I set the page to dashboard, I should come here, and what does dashboard do? Nothing really. I've got a div. Let's inspect this. Let's reload this. I didn't change anything on the back end. yeah, he doesn't really know how to get to dashboard. Oh, I know why. I think Camel underlying needs to be able to route stuff to multiple places. I think it doesn't know how to do that, so I'm going to have to override a small part of the handling. Yeah, so I think here what we'll do is say when we hit a 404, I've got to find a better way to do this, but for now this will work. Context response content type. So I'm going to set the content type to text HTML. Context response status code. I'm going to override it with a 200, and then I'm going to file read file.join the public directory to the index directory. XHTML. So this way the backend server will always redirect everything to the front end. I'll have to restart the backend. Okay, well, that's an improvement. But where is my div with hello in it? So empty div at the moment. Dashboard. Okay, so I think I did hit the root of dashboard. I did set page of dashboard. So that means also that just going to the root here should also take me here as well. Okay, but now why didn't I come in here? I've got the main class, so I do have a div here. Maybe I'll put some more stuff in here. Just something big. That's good. Nope. Let's do a bit of debugging. So we enter into roots. Did we get to roots? Pretty sure we did. Set page to dashboard. We go in the main. I know what's missing. I didn't put a record entry for dashboard in here. It should be dashboard. And this should be contents is dashboard. Well, that was a really obvious mistake to make there. Just shows that after a day of work, I'm still very tired. Hello, dashboard. So that's pretty cool. So probably no need to have a huge hello there now. I think we'll make the huge thing dashboard instead. Let's close that. Okay, so I'm already logged in. That's why I'm constantly being sent to the dashboard. If I was logged out, I wouldn't get to the dashboard. Well, that's what won't happen. So let's make that happen. So right now in GoMech, if I go to the root, it'll serve me the index. If I go to register, it'll post and then set me a session. So in the front end, I definitely need to handle those sessions. So in the dashboard, I'm going to create a session, and in the dashboard itself, I'm going to have a helper. So I think I'm just going to have a common module in the source area. Let's create a new folder called common. No, let's call it modules. And then inside here, let's call this one common. And this is going to be module common. And here I'm going to redirect to the dashboard if logged in. So this is kind of really just a bit of boring boilerplate stuff, you know, to make sure you only log in, only the person who is supposed to log in is logging in. Alright, now we do some HTTP stuff. So HTTP, so we're going to make a get to the endpoint. This is localhost 3000, that's the server. And we do API, and we'll make a current user. That'll give us back the current user. And we'll send that. I think ultimately in the Godot game engine, when I do this, I probably not use sessions. I think I probably just use JWT type things, like tokens. Alright, so let's go to the dashboard if you're logged in. I could do some more clever stuff later on that takes you where you were going if you put a URL in, but I don't think that's necessary right now. And then if there's any problems, I'm going to catch an HTTP error response this way to error, and return a promise.never for now. Really not really handling it right now. And then also let's have an error alert. Takes a string, returns some HTML. If the string is empty, error. Oops. Else. Okay, so if the string's empty, just return a div because we don't want to show anything. Otherwise, we'll put some danger alerts. We've already used this once, so we can replace our hard-coded usages of that with this common alert. There we go. Another one of those. And then let's tidy up this error. So we'll just say error plus the error. That's all good. Right, so now when we're on the actual dashboard, there's a life cycle of to the whole app. So you first start off loading and rendering the page. It does all the work it needs to do, and then after that it will render the HTML. So one interesting thing we could do here is on the dashboard, we can have a component did mount, and when it's mounted we could detect if someone's logged in or not, and if they're not, then we can send them off to a register or a login screen. Probably a login screen. That would make sense. Yeah, so we're getting there. I think the next major part after this is going to be login, and then onto more of the game mechanics. So redirect to dashboard if logged in. Let's use that somewhere. So my artist is just telling me that she's done some awesome artwork, so I'm really looking forward to seeing it. And yeah, she's looks like it's going to be really cool. Well, I'm not going to show that artwork today. I think it's slightly different style to the current artwork. So the current artwork is very anime. I think the new artist, her work is maybe a little bit more of a different style of shading. It's not quite anime, but I think it's close enough that it'll fit with the artwork. And also, she seems totally awesome, and she made some really good sketches of some new characters that are coming up. Right, register. So when you arrive on the register page and the component is loading, we want to check here and say, should you come here? So we'll do a component did mount. This returns a promise, never void, and then we use our common redirect to dashboard if logged in. Okay, so when you go to register, if it already logged in, register. So if I already had a session, if I was already logged in, then it would take me to the dashboard, which would be here. And if I wasn't logged in, we're going to end up on login. We haven't written login yet, so that's coming next. So let's go and look at login. I think that's the last thing I'll do today, login. It should be very similar to register. So let's create the page. Login.mint. Component login. I really also want to write some tests. I did some database work. I didn't write any tests, and like I said before, it always comes back to bite me as soon as I start changing stuff. Everything breaks. This app is, like I've mentioned before, it's just a game mechanics prototype, so it doesn't really need to be super amazing, and it's actually not gonna. I'm not going to put much effort into the look and feel, but I do want it to not have loads of problems. Like, I want it to be solid so we can use it for testing. And it'll be pretty cool in, I don't know how long it'll take me, but let's say it takes me a month to get this prototype running. Then you'll be able to actually come and play the game on the prototype and give feedback. So anyone who's watching on Twitch, you know, they'll definitely I'll definitely be giving out access to come and play on the game and have a go at playing against other players, playing against the AI, and giving feedback. And I think that's the exciting part. Right, so this stuff basically looks a lot, it's going to look a lot like what we've already got. But it also needs to be a little bit reused. So I'm going to move some stuff into common. Actually, I'm just going to write it first and then move it into common a little bit later. I'm going to start with the render. The HTML here. Right, so let's have a section, give it a class. Now then, maybe login should just look like register. Where is register? Yeah, it's pretty much identical. Just borrow all of that. So before we get to this, actually, just comment that out, and we'll just put a div here, and this div is going to say login. So did I comment out too much? No, that looks good. Okay, so in main we need a login. I'm going to put login under here. So this is going to be name is login and contents is going to be login. So I went to the Malta Blockchain Summit, and I had some artwork and a big couple of stands, which was pretty awesome. And I think there's only like 2 or 3 other gaming kind of blockchain things there. So our stand really stood out, and we were in such an awesome location. There was like, I can't remember how many, there was thousands and thousands of people all crammed into this, the Intercontinental Hotel in Malta. Malta's like blockchain island. There was loads of really awesome blockchain projects there. And one of the projects, they are building like it's called Decimated. It's like a really cool sort of post-apocalyptic world. It's like, I think it's a first-person shooter kind of thing. So I got talking to those guys there. And then interestingly, a few months later I went to San Francisco to the Silicon Valley Blockchain Expo, and these guys came up to see me and at my stand, and they were actually the guys who were working with this gamer who's building Decimated in Malta. Then I met quite a few other people who had come to Silicon Valley, and they'd also been in the Malta area. So the blockchain area is it's not a huge area really. I think a lot of people know each other in the space. Right, so in theory, login root should show me something. Yay, login. That's a good start. So now we will grab the div and comment it and bring to life the login. So this is going to be login. You still have to put your email address in. If you put an invalid email address in, do I really care? Probably not. Input name, we don't need the name. So this whole form group can go. Password, yes, I'd like password. Do I need to repeat password? No, I don't think so. So that's a much more cut down version. Do I need to show password strength? No, I don't. Do I need to toggle visibility of the password? Nope. Do I even need this append? I think not. That's this part. And what else do I need? So you put your email in, put your password in. This button should say login. And I got an error. Oh yes, so I need to bring across on email. So I've got a state up here. So register had on email, and it's pretty much identical. Let's go find it. Search will help. Yeah, so here's my on email. But I don't need to do any of this checking really. Let's pop it here. So really on email, all I want to do is set the value. Don't need to bother checking if it's valid. don't need to check any of this stuff really, which means I don't need that. I don't need valid email. I just need email. So let's set the email to the value I get from the DOM. That's it. Let's reformat that. Right, so on email, now what is this telling me down here? Closing tag issue on repeat password add-on. Repeat password. Don't need repeat password. This is password. This is the password. Type. What is it talking about? Oh, and register mint. I didn't change anything here. Line 459. 459. Oh, okay. Evidently, I did accidentally paste something there. That's what happens when you're tired. You make mistakes. That's why it's good to take a rest. Right, don't need check indicator. Goodbye. And yeah, on password. That's the next thing I need. So type's always just going to be password. I think there's no need to hide that at all. Don't really have. Yes, there should be do login. Okay, so the next one then, well, it's identical to this one, except it is on password. And this should be password. And that's it really. So if oh yes, I need to do the create button state and do login. So create button state, I guess, is going to be the same as the other one, slightly less stuff. So create button state. Get actually. This one I say true or false here. So really you just have to say string is empty, is the email empty, or string is empty, is the password empty. And if they are empty, the button here should be disabled. Right, do login. Let's put a placeholder for do login, which will be a promise. Never void. And this will be a. I was going to turn the promise never for now to make this compile. Is it compiling? Lots and lots of scrolling. So much scrolling. What's the problem? I was expecting HTML event A, but I got never. Okay, right, yes. This thing needs to take an event of HTML event. Yes, all good. So login, email address and password, and then we'll have a login button. Which means I need to go to the back end and make a login functionality. So here I've only got register. So login is very similar to register, but it does have a little bit more complexity. Well, not complexity, just I guess small differences between the two ways of doing things. So in login, actually once you logged in, everything is pretty much the same as if you come by register, because we're going to have registers drop you straight into a session. Okay, so when you post the email and password, we're going to say on params context take these UI login credentials, then we get some credentials, and here we'll if it's a success, we will say user repo find by email credentials email. So basically here we're just looking up the user in the database, and if we don't find the user, then we'll throw an error, and if we do find them, we'll go and find the stored password. So we only store the password hash. So now we do some crypto. We're using bcrypt here. It's a slow algorithm, so good for passwords. Then we'll pass in the password hash. So that's going to give us the stored password. Then we're going to say if the stored password is the same as the credentials password. If it's the same, we're going to get a session. We're going to get the user ID. We're going to set the user ID on the session to user ID, and then we're going to return a message in JSON with the user's ID to JSON. Otherwise, we are going to use HTTP codes, something we wrote yesterday, I think. We're going to return a bad request, give it the context, and then we'll say, well, in security normally we get told, hey, don't give anything away, but here I'm going to just say the user with those credentials was not found, because it's only a prototype, so it's not like it's going to be a banking class production application with super secure things. Okay, so does HTTP codes have what I need in it? So let's have a look. GOMEC HTTP codes. It's got bad request, and that's all we need. Right, so that login is dependent on find by email in the user repo. I believe the user repo does not have a find by email. So let's create one of those. Find by email should be pretty straightforward. So find by email, we'll give it the email, which is a string. Now we're going to return either a DB success or a failure, and the user. So I've just been typing in Mint before, now I'm typing in Crystal. And in Crystal you don't need to put the braces everywhere, but because the syntax highlighting is pretty similar, I found myself, what language am I in? Actually, that happens quite a lot to me. I switch between quite a few different languages all the time. So sometimes I'm working in Scala, which is my day job. Sometimes I'm in Ruby. Sometimes I'm in Crystal. Sometimes I'm in JavaScript. Sometimes I'm in something that compiles to JavaScript, like Elm or Mint, which I was using just a minute ago. And some days you just find yourself typing the wrong thing in the wrong language in the wrong way, and if that happens when you're working with somebody else, like we do a lot of pairing where I work, So because it's an agile project. I've worked in agile for a long time, and pairing's one thing I really like to do. Unfortunately, streaming on Twitch, it's quite hard to pair, but it really gets you through some of those hard times where you get a bit bored, or you get stuck with something, or just have inertia. So it's good, but you can really confuse people if you're supposed to be coding in Scala and suddenly you start typing Crystal or JavaScript in the Scala. Another thing that really catches me out sometimes is I use IntelliJ, and when you create a new file, if I'm working in Scala, you just say new Scala file, but sometimes you the new Java file is right next to it. So sometimes when I'm really tired, I'll hit the Java file, and I'll be coding in Scala in a Java file extension, and the IDE will be going crazy, and I'll be going crazy. I'm like, what on earth's going on? Why is everything red and broken? And then after a few minutes, I look and I'll be like, oh, I'm in a Java file. Yeah. So because the syntax highlighting on Crystal is a little bit same colors to the Mint one, when I switch between them, sometimes I get a bit confused, especially late at night after a full day of work. And if you watch any of my other streams, you'll realise that I moan a lot about being really tired. Find by email now works. So does that mean I can... No, I need UI login credentials. So in domain, in UI, I've got registration credentials, but I don't yet have any login credentials. Let's create some login credentials. New file, login credentials.cr. Nothing spectacular going on here. This is just all basic boilerplate stuff here. Just a class to hold the values coming in from the JSON when I do a JSON post with the username and the password. Well, with the email and the password, I should say. And this is just a helper method to parse the JSON. JSON to object. That's in a different class. That's already there. Yeah, and even the formatting is different. In the other formatter, it's a different key combination for Mint than it is to Crystal. So I've got my login credentials. I'm back now in GoMek. This may be enough now. Yes, here we go. We have action. So, in theory, I just need to do the post now, which will post to the back end for login, then it'll log me in. So let's try that. Let's go to the front end login and do something in the login here. So really here we just need to do a sequence and then HTML dot event prevent default with the event in case there's any default JavaScript default HTML form stuff going on. I'll just make sure we don't use that. Okay, so password. Now let's get login data. Now this is going to encode the user as JSON, and then here we're going to HTTP post to the endpoint that we just created, which is localhost 3000 API login. Too many of those. Right, then we're going to pipe that out into HTTP string body, JSON stringify login data. Yes. The next part is HTTP send, and now case response. I'm just reading what I'm typing. If you're watching it, you're like, why is he just reading what he's typing? Why is he not telling us what's going on? Okay, well, I'm just basically saying if there's an error, well, I'm saying for the status that I get back, if it's a 500, it's an error, so go and handle it in the error response. If it's a 400, it's also error response. And if it's anything else, we will navigate to the dashboard like that. And then on the sequence, if there's any error, like an HTTP error response, we'll take that error and we'll say, hey, there's a login error, could not log in user, something went wrong. We format that. So I think that's that will make a post to the right place. Now we need error response. I'll put that under here. Fun error response. Now this is going to take a response HTTP response. I need some water. This reminds me of when I was at the conferences. I just had to stand and talk for 8 hours every day for 2 days, and it was really very hard to keep going after several hours of standing on your feet and having people ask you about Sushi Chain and Guardians of Axum. In fact, at the Malta conference, I started off on day one. It was like 3 days. The first day, people walked past and they were like, "Hey, what's your thing?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, this is a blockchain. It's Sushi Chain, and it's a custom blockchain that we've written from scratch in Crystal programming language, and you won't find anything like it because it's handwritten. It's not a fork of another project. It's written from scratch, taking the concepts from Ethereum and from Bitcoin." And then I move on to talking about the game. I'd say, yes, this is our flagship app. This is basically going to highlight all the good points of the blockchain and show that the capabilities of the blockchain, basically. And that was great, for the first 4 or 5 hours. that was okay. But I started getting tired, so by the end of the second day, people would come over to me and I'd just be like, "It's a blockchain. It's a game." And that was about it, really. And they'd just look at me in an amused sort of way, as if to say, "What is going on?" And I think there was other people at these big conferences that had obviously been to several other conferences all in a row, and had been asked the same question a billion times and they were just extremely tired of answering it. It was a good experience though, because it does help to solidify the different types of thoughts that can spring from questions. So it also helps you come up with a really good answer, especially after a couple of days when you've been asked so many times and you've had like to expand on certain points and talk about other points. You really get a good flow to your message. Right, fun render 66. Sequence ends here, then I catch it here, catch it there. What is this thing? That's the promise. Why do I have two of these? I don't need two. HTML prevent default. Line 24. So this sequence ends there, catch, and this ends here. Right, just check line 24. Oh yes, misspelled that. HTML. When I watch other streams and I see people make mistakes, I'm like, oh no, he's made a mistake. So if you see me making a mistake, please tell me. Because you might be sitting there for 5 minutes going, this guy's made a mistake, he can't see it, he's not correcting it, why is he not correcting it? And it's probably because I'm really tired and I haven't seen it and I'm hunting through these other errors. Okay, so now my error is I don't have a record that represents this email password. So I need to go and make a record up here that can hold that data. This is user login credentials. I use the structural typing, so it doesn't really matter what I call this record. It matches it on the structure, so the name of it and the type. Right, so is this going to go away? Scroll. Decode JSON's message. Line 60. Line 60. Message. Decode JSON as message. So what is wrong with that? This is on error response. So I guess I need a message. Let's make one up here. Message. Message is just a string. More errors. Okay, so promise, never promise. Insert promise. Okay, promise, never promise. So obviously I'm not returning the right thing from error response. Function on 59. Promise, never promise. Yes. Promise, never void. Yeah, you can tell I'm getting tired now. Yeah, it compiles. So refresh this. So now if I bring the inspector up, switch over to the network and type in here. Email address. So obviously I need an email address that will work. Let's do this one. Type password. Type login. Okay, did the post. Sorry, no user found this email. Okay, that's what we expected, but we could do putting that message up on the screen somewhere instead of hiding it away. So I think what we need is a login error alert. Probably we need to put it just underneath login. Don't know if this is a good place, but we'll give it a go. So login error alert. Let's make one of those. I do have one of these in common, I think, but I need the login error. Now, does common let me have that? Common error alert. Yes, this should do error alert. Yeah, let's do it. Common dot error alert. Let's give it the error, which is login error. I think there, that does look good. Let's try. Yes, excellent. Okay, so login is looking good, but now we need a case where we have a real login available. Now I think I did, well, let's go register and then try login. So if I register as Superman at superman.com, Superman, oh, don't add two words together. Yes, okay, let's try a different password then. Super secure. There we go, all looking good. So Superman at Superman, let's register you. So now we're on the dashboard. We logged in. Now, am I really logged in? Yes, I'm not quite logged in. Right, so now let's try and log in. So Superman at superman.com. Let's put a gent password first. Okay, good. And let's put a real password. Login. Wow, it works. Awesome. Yeah. So we successfully registered and logged in. And we can go and check in the dashboard of RethinkDB, which is here. We can look in the tables. We can see we've got users. And then we can go to the Data Explorer. We can say the DB is Goa Mech Dev. The table is users, and if we run this, we'll see our Superman user. Password hash is in there, names in there. So this is a good, a good step here. We made some progress. One thing that doesn't happen is if I switch back to register, it lets me go there, and if I go to login, it lets me go there. So really, I need to implement current user on the back end so that I can know if there's a real user logged in. So we'll do that, and then we'll write some tests for the database. I think that'll be all for today. So that's probably another 20 minutes or so, I think, to get to that point. Yes, okay. So the next step then is to go and make current user. So I've got register, I've got login. So the front end app just needs to know about when a current user is there. Probably log out would be useful as well. I guess for now I'll do current user first, then we'll do log out. I think I'll put current user at the top here. So it's going to be a get on API. It's current user. We're going to do the context, and then we're going to say is logged on with the context and the user repo. and the user. Oh, strange symbol. So I've been watching some of the other streamers on Twitch that I could find. The guys mostly doing gaming, but then there's a few who are doing programming. And there's one guy, he's streaming for like 7-8 hours a day, and I was totally exhausted after streaming for like 2 hours the other night. And I was thinking, how on earth can you stream for so long? And I think he's been streaming for about 3 years, and he's building a game, a JavaScript game. He's called like Adam something. But yeah, his stream is really cool. He's such a pro that he makes it look easy. When I started first streaming, like only a few days ago, I've only been streaming for a few days, I was like, wow, he made it look so easy. And actually, it was pretty hard. Right, so I need a UI current user. Current user. What does current user need? Email, name, and ID. That's probably all it needs. Let's create it here. Current user.cr. Class UI current user. And then here we'll say JSON mapping, email, string, name, string, no string. So getting to code my own stuff is awesome. Like when you work, like I work as a programmer during the day, and obviously I have to do what the company wants me to do. So we'll get stories come in. We do Agile, so we have stories which cover the functionality that we need to build, and then we pair up and we split the work as required, and we start working on it. And oops, don't need that end there. But if we want to do something cool, like say you wanted to put some awesome animation, or just do something that was a bit time consuming but would be really cool, well, you don't really get to do it. You have to convince someone that you should be allowed to do it, because, well, time is money, and people are waiting for certain features, and they want the features to be done, so they want you to do only the feature that they've asked for, basically. And it's hard. Like, if you want to do something interesting, if you do something fun or different, or solve a problem in a different way, you've got to sometimes justify why you're doing it, and it takes the creativity out of it a little bit. I mean, obviously it's still really good fun, but you don't get quite the same freedom that you get when you're working on your own thing, where you've got you've got your own license to create whatever you like, go whatever direction you like. You don't have to constantly justify to your boss or your project manager, why am we doing this? Why are you experimenting that? Why are you using that language? I'm totally free. These 2 hours are totally free for me to create what I want, code how I like, and not be restricted, basically. So that's one of the reasons I've chosen the technologies I'm working with, because I find them interesting. If you're going to spend so many hours of your life working on something, then you may as well pick something that is going to keep your interest. It's nothing worse than being one of those programmers who, just turns up at work, sits down, does the job, waits for the clock, 5 o'clock, off you go, back home again. And then the next day you say, hey, what did you do last night? And they say, well, yeah, I just watched TV for a few hours and then went to bed. I'm much more of a, what did you do last night? Oh yeah, I coded up half of Guardians of Axon last night. And I learnt these 5 cool things about programming at the same time. And I met these cool people online, and they said to me, hey, have you seen this cool stuff? And that's like passion for the job, passion for programming. I think I probably would do this job even if they didn't pay me. Don't tell my wife I said that. Okay, so current user should work now. So if I reload this, current user, oh yes, I need to restart the app here. Oh yes, is logged on. Right, I need a helper method. In endpoint helpers, I'm going to put it here. Def is logged on. Context. Yeah. So sorry if I start rambling on about random stuff here, because I'm getting tired. And I ramble on about random stuff when I get tired. Alright, so we need a session ID, context session, string, user ID. The other thing about the guy Adam, his stream, is that he is such an amazingly fast typist. I mean, his level of accuracy is amazing, and the speedy types. And I guess when you watch people typing, you don't want to watch them constantly retyping everything over and over. But so, I apologize for that, because I do that. I'm not a super amazing typist. Right, I need not authorized, which I don't have yet. Context. Right, I need to put a message here. This message is going to say, please log in to continue, I think is a good message. Please log in to continue. So I'm really excited to see some of the new artwork that's coming out. And that's session ID. The new artwork is going to be really focusing on more of the second in command people. So we've done all the boss people, boss characters for the game, for the first 4 decks. But next is coming the second in commands, the generals, and these cards can be not as commanding as the main boss guys, but still really awesome. And then after that we'll have a lot more of the other characters. So I generally come up with the characters, and then I say to the artist, this is what I want. So on this set of artwork here, I didn't want to open it right here. I wanted to drag the screen across. So on this set of artwork here, I said, look, I really want an angel, and I want the angel to have wings. I want it to look cute with blonde hair. I want the angel to have a bow. And then the artist went off and sort of recreated that for me. But the hard part was when I first started describing what I wanted. So I'd say, like, yeah, make me an angel. And originally I was like sketching out a drawing of how I wanted it to look. And the artist was like, hey, no. Just write the description, please. Your drawings are terrible. And so then the second part was when you get the first sketch. I was getting really early sketches, so I couldn't really understand what the final thing was going to look like. And it was a process of several sketches that built on top of each other until finally we got to shading and colouring. And eventually it turned out like this. And I was like, wow, awesome. But if you tell me it was going to look awesome like this from the first sketch, I would not have had a clue. Right, is logged on. I made a mistake. Line 48 is logged on. User repo. Okay, fine. Line 48 is logged on. Context user repo. Instantiating is logged on, so it's user repo. Unless session ID. Okay, so I think I was probably talking too much there. and didn't pay attention to this function very well. So let's just check it. Is logged on, context, user repo, and block, and then we've got session ID, context session string, user ID. Looks good to me. Return suppress, and then we've got this. Let's drop this down line. Let's drop this down line. Right, what's this? That comes from that context, this comes from this context. Unless session ID, that looks good. User repo found by ID, session ID on success. Yield the user. Right, that all looks good to me. Oh yes, and the problem is, like I mentioned earlier, I said we don't have a not authorized yet. Let's fix that problem. So we need a not authorized. Def self not authorized context response hash. This is just a self set context. Oops. Response hash and not authorized. I'm going to say 401. HTTP code 401. Right. Now it should compile. Fingers crossed. Yay, compilation. This is a step forward. There we go, we're logged in. So now I shouldn't be able to go to login. I can't, awesome. I shouldn't be able to go to register. I can't, awesome. Okay, so this is great. We've now successfully protected the dashboard. So now I need to log out so that we can go check that we can log in and out correctly. Log out. I'm going to really log out should be a delete, but because I want to test it in the browser, I'm just going to make it a get for now. And then once I've finished playing around and I make a proper button in the front end app, then I'll be able to change this back to a delete. So we'll just say session destroy and context redirect to login. That should be it. Let's restart the back end. It's up. So now let's go to logout. API logout. Yay, I'm to log in. So I could log in here or I could go to register. And that's exactly what we want. And if I go to login, I should be able to log in with superman@superman.com. I can't remember the password, but that's it. That's really good. Okay, so the next step then is, I said earlier, I want to go back and just write some tests for the repos, because I didn't write any and it always comes back to bite me. So what we need is a repo spec. So this is the last thing I'm going to do tonight. I don't think it'll take very long. Famous last words. User repo spec.cr. Right. So we need. These are kind of like unit tests, and we'll probably have some. Well, we may not. It's a prototype, so we may not have any like proper front end type tests. But for unit, we definitely need some helper stuff, which is going to fire up the database and bring in any dependencies. So that's a unit spec helper. So in here we're going to require spec, which is the spec framework, the testing framework. We're going to require anything from source GoAMec. We're also going to require anything from the source GoAMec domain DB. Same for the UI. Source GoAMec repos. util will need source GoAMec, anything in util. And then we're also going to need Crystal Rethink DB, which is my library that talks to Rethink DB. And then we'll include the Rethink DB shortcuts here. So that's the unit spec helper. So we'll require the unit spec helper unit spec underscores, sorry, unit spec helper. Right, so the way you write these tests is you say describe, and then you say what you're describing, which is the user repo, and then you put it into a block. Nice and easy. Okay, and then I need to set the environment up. So let's load the test environment. And then we're gonna get the database drivers, make a connection on localhost, pass in the env, and then we're gonna recreate the database, recreate the test database every time we run this. Then we'll get the user repo, because that's what we're testing, and get the connection off the DB. Right, and then we'll describe the first test. First test is going to be about inserting. So it should insert a new user. Do end. Okay, so I really should try and explain what I'm doing here instead of just reading what I'm typing, because like I keep saying, obviously everyone's watching and you can read it as well. So so basically this test is going to just test with the test database that a user can be inserted using the repo code that we already have. And if I was being like strictly TDD, if anyone knows what that is, it's test driven development. Normally you would write your test first and you'd use the test to build out the functionality. So the test becomes a spec. That's why this is called a framework, testing framework is called spec, because you build like a specification and then you make code, production code, which makes your specification pass. And when I first learned the whole process, it was quite a few years ago now, but it was like a little light bulb went off in my head about, wow, this is awesome. You describe what you want to build and then you keep building it until the test passes, and that was a very powerful thing for me. Right, there's one test insert, so we'll check our repo. This is the user repo, this is insert. So insert basically just goes to the table, inserts the user, and then goes and finds the ID and gives us a user back. So to run the specs, let's get a new window here. So I've got an alias called gtest, which will run the specs. Okay. Obviously doesn't like this running at the same time. Let's try that. Expected true, got false. Okay. So check our spec first of all. Spec 7. GOMX spec. Oh, yes, this is the default spec. We delete that. We don't need that. Let's run it again. Just so you see the alias here. It just basically runs Crystal spec, but it sets the camel environment to test, and that's what it does really. Alright, let's write some more tests. So we've got insert. So now the next thing is, if the email already exists, we don't want to insert it. We want to raise an error and say, hey, this email already exists. So we should not insert a user if there is already a user with the same email. So set an email here. Let's test user1 at example.com. Results is the user repo. Insert the user.new email. Let's create a test user and a password hash. Okay, result. I'm doing it again, just explaining what I'm typing. I'm just reading out what I'm typing. Okay, so we're checking here that once we create a user and insert it, the result should be a success. This is the first time we're adding the user. And the second, just check this, result value as user email should equal the email. Okay, so that's basically what we had before. And now on to result 2. So we repeat the same thing. We'll say insert a user and we'll put the same email. So really I could abstract this a bit really, because this user, I'm just using it more, I'm using it twice here. I don't know, I think it's fine. For readability, it's fine. It's a fine line between reusability and readability. And at the end of the day, it comes down to your personal preference at result 2. But I often come back and forwards with this as well. So I look at some code I wrote like a few months later, or even a few days later, and I'll say, oh my goodness, did I write that? Why did I do that? If the email already exists. Okay, that should pass. Let's run it again. All good. Okay, so that was insert. Now we've got to do, what have we got to do? User repo. So we've got insert, we've got found by ID, find by email, and the rest are helper methods that are used inside those. So I think I'll just test those two as the next thing. So describe, find by email, do this, So again, here's my email. We'll do test find by email at example.com. Expected user is going to be user repo. We're just going to insert a user here. Email test user. It doesn't really matter what this stuff is here. Often it's hard to really surface exactly what the test's supposed to be doing. Like if you clutter it with too much stuff, sometimes it's hard to look and say, oh yes, I know what the test's doing. Right, it should find user by email when user exists, and that's what find by email does. So let's say user repo find by email. We give it the email, and then this result, it should find it because we've just put the same email that we've just created. So it should be one of these, and then the result, the value of it as a user dot ID should equal expected user value as user ID. Let's run that. Very good. And then one more test here. So this should be should return an error when the user can't be found, which is also a good thing. So result, let's do an email which is a non-existing at example.com, and then the result is going to be the user repo find by email. Use this email. Result should be a DB failure, and result dot value should equal sorry, no user was found with the email. Is that what I said? Let me check. User repo. Sorry, no user was found with the ID, blah blah blah. Okay. No user was found with the email. Let's run that. Very good. So that's found by email. The last one was found by ID. So we'll just do that one. Just reformat that. Right, we're on the home stretch now. Found by ID. Do and right. It should find user by ID when the user exists, for sure. Right, result is user repo insert a user test find by ID at example.com. This is just a test user and a password hash. Right, expected user is going to be result value as user, and then result 2, not 3, 2 is the user repo, and we're going to find by ID, and it should find the same expected user ID, and we can check the value in here as well. Value as user ID should be expected user ID underscore. That should be it. Let's go. And I lost it. Where is it? Yeah, all good. 5 examples, 5 passes. Now on to the very last one. It should return an error. So I think it's up to developers to really focus on testing, because all these little bugs that can come up when you don't test can cause you a lot of time spent searching around and hunting for various errors that you've made. So if you don't write any tests, you never discover any of those errors. And also, when you come to change something, if you haven't got any tests and you make a change, then especially the bigger the system gets, you really have no idea if you've broken anything. So I really like to have quite a lot of tests. I'm not so keen on the front end long, slow Selenium or Chrome driver type tests, because often they take so much time to maintain and you've got to fix them all the time, especially if they're quite brittle. If you've got an HTML structure on the page and then your test is relying on like an XPath down to an element, and then you suddenly on the week after restructure the HTML. Like I already did this actually. I did this the other day. I completely restructured the login and the register page. So all my tests were broken on the front end for that. Right, let's run this test. Here we go. Oh no. DB failure. Should be a spec 58. Yep, yeah, I need a big B. So obviously I'm starting to get tired now. There we go, all passed. And now we have a nice shiny new login. Just fire this up again. Fire this up again. So yeah, we can log in, we can log out, we can register. So when I go to log out, here we're logged out. If I go to log in, actually API log out. So now we can log in and now we can register. And on the register we've got email validation checking, we've got password strength checking, we've got a repeat password, we've got the X's that show if it's different. We can then unhide the view here, and then we get the green ticks when they match. And the password strength checking will go away when you do a good password. That's good. Password super, all good. Put a valid email address in, all good. And if I don't put anything in here, I can't register because it's not letting me. So all that stuff is good. We've done all that, and then log in. We did something similar. You can't log in unless you put an email and a password. Now we're not checking the email if it's valid or not here. That'll be checked on the back end anyway, by the fact that we didn't find the user with whatever they put in there. So yeah, I think that's it. So tomorrow I'm hoping to show you some of the artwork, the new artwork that we've got, and also move on to the next stage. So looking at the dashboard screen and hopefully starting to create decks of cards. So I'll probably start with an admin, so the game designers and myself can create cards, decks of cards, and then after that we'll have like a player, and the player will be able to choose the deck that they want, build the deck that they want from the cards. Yeah, so that's the next step. So thanks for watching. I'll be back again every day from 9 o'clock, sometimes 9 till 10, sometimes 9 till 11, depending on how tired I am. But yeah, thanks for watching, and maybe I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.